All right, well, welcome to El Paso Bible Church, to our Sunday school hour today, and happy Father's Day to you, if you are a father, grandfather, great-great-grandfather, and so on. Hope that you get the opportunity to celebrate with your family today. We are here in Exodus chapter 5, so if you'd like to scriptures, however it is that you do that, that's where we are. Remember, we talked about that strange portion, not really strange. It looks strange, seems strange, that Moses' son would be accompanying him and he and his wife into Egypt to fulfill the Lord's tasks given to Moses. And yet Moses had failed to have his own incorporated into the covenant, so to speak, the Abrahamic covenant that was by the sign of circumcision. And so his wife Zipporah was able to save his life. It says that Moses was going to have his life taken by Yahweh himself for standing in as God's mouthpiece without having fulfilled his obligation as a father. So it's somewhat appropriate. We're going to talk a little bit about some more things that your daddy should have taught you from Ephesians later on. But here we are in chapter 5, and this is Moses and Aaron actually before Pharaoh. They've overcome their objections, or God has overcome their objections. Remember that God said, okay, Moses, we understand it. You're scared. You don't think you can speak. So here's Moses. Here's Aaron to go with you. So it's always them, and they're always speaking to and I would like to point out it is a different world that they live in, because we don't have, if you try to go down and meet with even kind of the comical members of our county commissioner's court, I doubt that you could get an appointment very easily with them, especially maybe not me. But these guys just go down and say, hey, Pharaoh, we're here. It looks like, right? The whole king of the mighty nation of Egypt. And they are able to gain an audience. Maybe he still had his Pharaoh's court card. I don't know how this happened, but it does seem surprising to me. But verse 1 says this, and after the bridegroom of blood incident, after they came to the elders of Israel, and after they had witnessed what God had said would happen, that they had immediate credibility with the elders of Israel, and that the people were on board with what Moses and Aaron were there for. So afterward, Moses and Aaron came and said to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may celebrate a feast to me in the wilderness. Simple enough, not particularly perfect on script. And to be fair, the Israelites had experience, generally speaking. It didn't take a rocket scientist to understand the importance of a freedom of religion, right? So the Israelites lived in a peninsula called Goshen, and they essentially had their large level of sovereignty over those centuries that they lived in. And so it was not unreasonable to say, hey, the people are numerous. They worship a different God than you are. Don't take them think you're a God, but we're going to go worship our God in the wilderness. And so that was not really an unreasonable request. Had they possibly had they phrased it differently. They don't have the option of phrasing it differently. I think that had they said, hey, Pharaoh, we would like to go worship the frog god in the wilderness. Can we go do that? Pharaoh might have been more amenable to that, actually. Could I go worship some other false god? Can I go out and worship Pantheon, the Egyptian Pantheon? We could go do that. Probably, right? But you need to understand the ancient Near Eastern view of what's happening here. When they come to Pharaoh and they say, Yahweh, the God of Israel, says, let my people go, it's setting up a pretty massive confrontation between a ruler that says, no, I'm the God of Egypt. I am the representation of who God is. If y'all say you want to go worship a God that we've already conquered, that has already been demonstrably conquered and their people enslaved, that's fine. But they come in and they say, Yahweh is telling me this. Yahweh is commanding you to do this. This is what we want to do. And remember, this Pharaoh's a little bit of a dummy, honestly. He's already pretty regularly, and he's not going to change. As a wise man once said, you can't fix stupid. That's not in the Bible. That was just some smart guy. But Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh? Who is Yahweh? That's his personal name, by the way. That's not, what God are you worshiping? That's, who is, in El Paso, it would be like, who is Paul Foster? Who is Oscar Leeser? Well, he's a good boy. We all know that. We all know that. I don't want to make fun of him too much. But who is Yahweh? Well, it's like, I don't know. A lot of the celebrities I see, and it says, this celebrity made this massive decision. Their proclamation, they've decided that there are 37 different genders all of a sudden. And you have to use this pronoun when you talk to them. I go, what do I call you? I call you nothing. I don't know who you are. You're nobody to me. Now, that might be offensive to some people if that's their favorite singer, or their favorite actress, or their favorite person who's famous for being famous. But that's how Pharaoh is treating Yahweh. Who is Yahweh that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? Who is he? I do not know Yahweh, and besides, I will not let Israel go. He's earning substantial amounts of dummy points every time he opens his mouth. You know how we say, like, you're not supposed to, unless you really, 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 really want to learn patience, to ask the Lord to teach you patience. It's really unwise to behave as if you have no idea who Yahweh is. I do not know him. He didn't ask for an introduction, right? Who is he? I don't know who he is. He has no power here. His people have been here. We gave you his personal name, right? Yahweh. We gave you his title, the God of Israel. He is the powerful one, the one who rules. This is who he is. They just used the title here. They said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. He could just mean Moses and Aaron. He could mean the elders of Israel. It could be all of it. Please let us go a 3 days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice our God. Otherwise, they go off script here for a minute. Otherwise, he will fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. Was that going to be the consequence? If Pharaoh didn't let him go? Guys, don't go off script. Don't go off script. If God says to tell you, that for you to say to Pharaoh, or if the scripture tells this to you, right? Says, tell him this, tell him that. What are they threatening Pharaoh with? God's going to hurt us. God didn't say that. God said, Pharaoh's not going to let you go, and I'm going to fall on him with pestilence and with the sword. His firstborn, because he's mistreating my firstborn. Third, flinched, I guess, not stuttered. This is why I say when God tells Moses, Aaron, you're going to be as God to Aaron. It's not an elevation for Moses. It was, Moses, prepare to be kind of frustrated working through another human being's mouth. Right? This happened all the way back in the garden. What has God about that fruit over there, Eve? Well, he said not to even look at it, not to even touch it. That's not what God said. That may have been what Adam said, and there's some speculation. Adam may have said, please, please don't even go near it. But that's not what God said. I can introduce you to the frustration of speaking through another human being's mouth. But we already know, Pharaoh he's not a wise leader. I think we pointed that out. This is the problem with hereditary dynastic rule. Whether it's in a church or a country. This is going to sound really mean. Every family has its dummies. And in a dynasty, they're usually the one that's on the throne. Should we talk about modern day England? Right? Long ruling, fairly wise monarch in England, right? Anybody have a high opinion of her son? I'm just asking. Okay. That's frequently the situation. Almost always. The king of Egypt said to them, Moses and Aaron, why do you draw the people away from their work? Get back to your labors. He says, guys, you guys have been taking it easy. You've been off 40 years in Midian, you Hebrew. You should be making bricks with everybody else. And yet here you are trying to declare a federal holiday. Costs us $1 billion, by the way, every time there's a federal holiday declared. $1 billion. Pretty soon you're talking about real money, right? Get back to your work. And again, Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now many, and you would have them cease from their labors. What's he saying? Well, there are a whole lot of... See, in previous chapters, he was worried. There are so many of them, they're going to rise up against us, and they're going to ally themselves with our enemies, and they're going to destroy us. And now, he said, you got to work harder. A lot of Egyptians are depending on your welfare. Right? How are we going to get these buildings built? You expect the Egyptians to go make their own bricks? You guys, you can't stop working. You want me to let everybody off the whole land of Goshen for 3 whole days? So the same day, Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters over the people and their foremen, saying, you are no longer to give the people straw to make brick as previously. So let them go and gather straw for themselves. But the quota of bricks which they were making previously you shall impose on them. You are not to reduce any of it, because they are lazy. Therefore they cry out, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Leadership attributes are not hereditary, folks. They have to be learned and earned every time. He says, you're many, right? You would have them cease from their labors. But he tells the taskmasters, the people who are cracking the whip, over the foremen who are cracking the whip. We would call the foremen collaborators, probably. You're no longer to give the people straw to make brick as previously. So you may understand this better than I did as a kid. As a kid, nobody explained to me